Hello, delicious people, and welcome to another episode of Intimate Conversations with a return guest. We've done podcasts before, right?
Yeah. Yes, we have.
I love this. And he has a new book coming out. So the amazing John Howard is back. He's an internationally recognized therapist, wellness expert, and educator who uses the latest science to help couples have stronger relationships. And he is the author of More Than Words, The Science of Deepening Love and Connection in Any Relationship. And you can go to getmorethanwords.com. So you can get lots of goodies. You can buy it anywhere, of course, but that's the place where you get the goodies. And he is the host of The John Howard Show, a wellness podcast, and the creator of Ready, Set, Love, a series of online programs for couples. And he draws on his studies of Indigenous and other multicultural traditions and developed a couples and family therapy curriculum for the Dell Medical School in Austin, where he teaches. And he's also the CEO of Presence, a wellness center in Austin, Texas, dedicated to helping people achieve optimal physical, mental, and relationship health. I'm so happy to see you again. Congratulations on your book launch and everything. How are you?
I'm doing great, Elena. Thank you so much for having me back. And it was a pleasure having you on my show as well. It's just fun to talk to you. The book is out, by the way. It came out February 1st.
Nice.
And we wanted to get it out in time for Valentine's Day.
Great idea.
I don't know when people are going to be listening to this, but the book will certainly be out, and I hope everybody reads it.
Beautiful. I'll be sure to send it out in the newsletter as well as like a featured product, as well as the podcast. So just tell everybody about it. So I can't even remember who introduced us or how we met. I just remember when we met, it was like, oh my God, he gets it. Oh my God, he's conscious. Oh my God, like this is the real deal. Tell people how you got into the work you did, because it's quite, to me, lovely and unusual that there's Indigenous and multicultural traditions that have really spoken to you. I remember back listening to like Joseph Campbell for like 5 hours, and I just couldn't get enough of this deeper, richer, long-standing, thousands of years traditions that can support us in today's world.
Yeah, for me, it's really important to my work. You know, a pet peeve of mine is psychologists who present at conferences, and they, talk about all this cool, like energy stuff and ancient stuff, and they don't credit ancient and indigenous cultures with coming up with it, almost like it's new, that psychology has somehow discovered these incredible approaches to personal growth. So, it was really important to me. I grew up somewhat neglected. I grew up speaking Spanish. I left home at 15. I didn't live with my parents. I was basically a lost kid, and I just assumed that everyone in the modern world had absolutely no idea what it meant to live and be a reasonably healthy human. There was just nothing in my environment that showed that as an example. So I went looking for it. And my early assumption was maybe Native peoples know what's up when it comes to living a meaningful life, because I haven't met anybody in New York City that seems to know anything about it. So, speaking Spanish, it gave me access to go down to South America, Central America, and go into some pretty remote areas, and start asking deep existential questions.
Wow.
And I feel like I was finally given the proper education I should have gotten from the beginning in school about what it means to be a human being on planet Earth. And it's not that I'm into any one particular belief system. It's not like I'm trying to push a particular system. It's just that Native peoples have a lot of wisdom that we've kind of lost in the modern world. And so a lot of us feel disconnected from our core purpose. And we look to, success and material things to make up for it.
Right.
But one thing I learned from Indigenous people is that you have to be in touch with yourself to be happy.
Yeah.
And that made a really big difference in my life. So even when I got into relationship work and psychology and so on, that has always stuck with me. It's like, we do have these science-based methods for healing the mind and healing relationships, and that's all good and fine. But we have to ground that in ancient technology and wisdom about what it means to be a human. Otherwise, we're a little bit too lost in modern concepts. And obviously, relationships have been around a long time. So I think we can look to ancient cultures to really give us a strong foundation in what it means to live life together.
Wow, I so love this. I've missed talking to you. You're awesome. Wow. So you're having these existential conversations about you need to be in touch with yourself to be happy. What does that really mean in a day-to-day life in a busy New York City, or just kids and a job and a commute and all the rest of it?
Well, so, when you study spiritual traditions around the world, it's clear that there's a lot of stuff they have in common, and it's clear that there's also a lot of diversity. So I don't think that anyone needs to live in a monastery or live in the woods to be spiritual. You can live a modern life, you can work, you can raise kids, you can, but the difference is, how do you connect with yourself and how do you make sense of who you are?
Yeah.
So that's what spiritual traditions around the world, I think, have in common, which is they understand the technology of how to answer that question. Mm. So I think a lot of it is asking ourselves, like, what are we really doing here and what's really meaningful? Mm. Because to give you an example, when I wake up, if I have to go to the coffee shop and stand in line, like there was a time when I was annoyed by that, why am I having to stand in line? Why are there so many people here? There's other things I could be doing. What meditation and spirituality has given me is the resilience to recognize what an incredible opportunity it is just to be breathing and just to have consciousness and just to look around and see other people. So with that type of a mindset, I might turn to somebody and form a new friendship. Right. I might, meditate internally and be productive with that time waiting in line. Mm. What purpose gives us is resilience and meaning, because it's hard to navigate life's ups and downs. Mm. We have expectations and then we're going to be disappointed. And that's normal. Yeah. But what ancient spiritual traditions have always done a good job of is understanding that that's the dilemma of the mind, and then saying, okay, that's what we're going to do by default, but you don't have to live that way. You can be in touch with your core purpose and it can be a source of happiness. So I think that's hugely important in today's modern world, where so much evaluation goes on based on money and status and all this stuff. And I think it's hugely important to relationships, because relationship is a kind of meditation. Mm. If you're not fully present with that other person, you're not going to form a deep connection, right? So like in individual meditation, you try to be fully present with yourself.
Yes.
Who am I? What am I feeling? What's coming up for me? Well, in relationship, if you can treat it like a meditation and say, okay, I am here to be fully present with you. Yeah. I'm here to be fully present with what's coming up for you, what I see on your face, what I hear in your voice. Now we can go deep in a way that's really rich.
Yeah.
And in the modern world, most people miss that opportunity because we're too busy.
Right. We're on our phone. We don't even look in their friggin' eyes. Yeah. And then the next step is when you start to look in someone's eyes. And as you said, I love that I love this. Relationship is a meditation. So you're fully present with your partner. You're looking in their eyes and they're pissed or they're scared or they're whatever. And then normally then we retract, or what did I do wrong? Or we control, or we take it personally, or we justify. We don't just stand there, breathe, keep our heart open and be present and say like, hey, tell me more, right? Because the ability to do that, we haven't developed that within ourselves. So I so love this. Meditation with self, relationship with self allows you to be there for others. But I want to go back 1 second, then I want to go forward again. You said, your core purpose is your source of happiness. Would you define purpose? I think a lot of people think their purpose is their job description.
I know this is part of the problem with the modern world and why so many of us feel disconnected from a core sense of who we are, is because that's what we're taught is your purpose is what you do for a living. Your purpose is, the country club you belong to. It's your net worth. It's all this BS, crazy stuff that means nothing. So what spirituality is essentially is a person's deepest existential thoughts and feelings. Okay, it doesn't have to be this woo, like mystical thing that falls from the sky for weird people. It's just like, when it comes down to it, it's your deepest thoughts and feelings, the really deep questions you ask about life. That's your spirituality. Now, the way you answer those questions can show up in your dance class, in your gardening, in your walking around the lake, in sitting in nature. It doesn't have to be a formal meditation or a school of religion or anything like that. And so people answer these deep existential questions in different ways. But what I mean by being connected to your core purpose is, can you easily answer what you're about and why you live? Because if you wake up in the morning and you don't have a clear answer to that question, then you're looking to your job to provide some satisfaction.
Yeah.
You're looking to, whether you have enough money in the bank account to provide some satisfaction, whether you get to go on that vacation or not. Oh no, it's COVID, I can't go. For sure, life is going to throw you curveballs. So you have to be really clear. Why did I wake up this morning? Why do I have breath? Why do I have consciousness? What does that mean to me? And that's going to give me the purpose and the passion and the energy to move through all the curveballs I get.
I love this. Okay, so John Howard, take a breath. What are you about, sir?
For me personally, and this is something that I have learned, to give credit where credit is due, from ancient traditions.
Yeah.
This is why I love ancient wisdom, because I've learned a lot from it. So for me, my purpose is about learning. It's about learning more about myself and learning more about the divine. Now, I could also say my purpose is love and kindness, because I feel connected to that. I could also say my purpose is clarity of mind. I try to sort through the noise to be clear. But in reality, we're all in a learning process. We're never going to be as wise as we want to be and know everything.
We're always evolving. Yeah.
And the grand mystery is the grand mystery, right? So we can't be so presumptuous and say, oh, this is what it's all about. So for me, I always want to make sure that I'm learning, that I'm growing. One question I ask every morning to the great divine is, who do you want me to be and what do you want me to do? Because I don't want to assume that I know the answer to that. I don't want to preserve some sense of self that's coming from my ego, right? I am this, I do this. I want to be open, to how I'm growing as I learn and how the divine is helping me through that growth. So for me, that's my purpose, and it carries into everything that I do.
I love this. So that the viewers and listeners understand, when you ask the question, like, divine, who do you want me to be? What do you want me to do today? How do you hear it? Is it words? Is it a knowing pre-thought? Is it a visual? Is it a bit of everything? How have you over time learned to hear that, trust that, and then be and do that?
For me, it's a kind of feeling that I get. Now, there was a time, when I was like a novice meditator, I used to ask that question, and then I would try to hear like exactly what message is coming back to me.
Yes.
Right. And I would drive myself bananas, and, and I was pretty neurotic and anxious to begin with. So, trying to be in dialogue with the great divine is not any help if you're a neurotic type, because, then you wonder, am I hearing the right thing? Well, what does it mean? What am I supposed to do with? So there was a time when I was caught up in all that. I learned to just experience it as a grounded feeling and get what I get, and it's never everything. But most of the time these days, it just connects me with a core feeling of being present. I remember being at a spiritual conference a long time ago, and people were talking about this question of purpose. What's my purpose? What am I here to do? Who am I? Right. And if you look to ancient spiritual teachings, most of the time they say, you don't really have a special, unique purpose. Like human beings mostly have the same purpose, which is to try to understand yourself and try to understand the divine, right? It's not like you're supposed to be a plumber, or you're supposed to, it's not like that. It's more like understand what it means to have a spirit. So for me, I try to just ground into the feeling, and the feeling is often one that reminds me, hey, you're here to be present. You're here to learn. You're here to watch. You're here to engage. You're here to help people. You're here to be kind. And I take a breath and I go on with my day.
Thank you. Have you ever asked the question, or what has evolved for you to be leaving home at 15 and not to have parents and to sort of be reparented by Indigenous cultures and the divine? Why did your soul choose that on your path?
I have asked that question. I had to go through a lot of trauma healing to become semi-sane and functional. And, I've often wondered, why do some people go through hard things and other people don't? I don't know the answer to that, but I know that for me, going through really hard things and feeling alone and isolated and crying myself to sleep and not having people to talk to and not feeling loved and not being hugged and not being told I love you, like the reason I feel like I went through that was because I had to learn, what it means to be that isolated and how to claw and scratch my way to a sense of wholeness. I think sometimes people that are contributing things into the world have been through stuff. And that stuff has allowed them to metabolize a learning process they can share. So if I hadn't been through that, I don't think I'd be very useful to people. I'd probably be managing a hedge fund or something like that. But the fact that I went through some pain connects me really deeply to people in pain.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to feel alone. I don't want anybody to feel isolated. I don't want anybody to lack emotional support. I don't want anybody to not feel loved, because I know what that's like, and it's horrible. And honestly, a lot of people don't make it. They just kill themselves.
Yeah.
So this is really important work. And I know you're doing it as well, which is to help people learn how to be connected.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that leads me to the title of your book, More Than Words. So how did you come up with that title, and what does it mean to you?
So the initial working title, I'll let you in on a little secret, was Shut Up and Connect. Oh. And I tried to sneak an expletive in there as well, which the publisher didn't like very much. And I thought they probably figured even that title by itself without the expletive was offensive.
Right.
So it didn't really pass review, but the idea was the same. We talk too much in modern life, and we don't say anything meaningful.
Wow. Okay, say that one more time. We talk too much.
We talk too much, and we don't say anything meaningful.
Wow. Let that sink in. Yeah.
It's like a disease in modern life. Yeah. And then people wonder why we're disconnected. Well, what the hell are you talking about? Like you spend 3 hours talking about the schedule and the chores and who's going to pick up what and the logistics and taxes. And like, when did you ever stop to look someone in the eye and tell them what they mean to you?
Thank you. Yeah. And when have you done that to yourself?
Yeah.
When you're brushing your teeth out in the morning, like, did you take that beat and go, hey, you're doing a great job?
Exactly.
What are we going to be about today?
Right.
And really pause and let it sink in. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get it, because I know you live that kind of life. But what a lot of people are suffering from is a lack of connection with themselves, with others. Yeah. And there's a relationship between those two. Yeah. I'm a therapist. And so a lot of times people come to me and they say, I feel really isolated. I feel really alone. Yeah. And I say, well, there's some things you can do for yourself. And there's some things that you might need to do by connecting to other people, because these things work together.
Yes. Yes.
The way the brain is set up, it's very relational. So there's only so much we can talk ourselves into in terms of feeling connected. At some point, we have to really develop healthy relationships that reflect a beautiful self back to us. And so both are really important.
Yeah, I love that. So the science of deepening love and connection in any relationship, the subtitle of the book, you're saying the equally inside as outside. I love, the geek in me loves the dual toroidal field, right? Like, so it's going to go infinitely inward and infinitely outward. What do you think is a great self? So we've talked about a great self practice, like when you wake up, like, why do I live? What am I about? Asking these deeper, meaningful questions, like what really matters? Or we were just saying, like, connect with yourself when you're brushing your teeth and say, hey, you're doing a great job. Use exploitatives, even if the publishers won't. Then we take it outside, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Yeah. And nobody gets me and nobody understands me, and they're talking at me, kind of like the Shut Up, the original title of the book. What would you say to them on how to create deeper connection on the outside?
Too many of us, and I'm guilty as charged, too many of us blame other people for our lack of connection. We look out into the world and we judge the hell out of people. Yeah. We say, well, they don't believe what I believe. They don't share my politics. They don't share my culture. Yeah. How am I going to connect with these people? They're just too stupid, or they just believe weird things. Like, we're a very polarized society right now, right? Like, if you're from the city, you don't relate to people in the country. If you're on the left, you don't relate to people on the right. A lot of what that is a lack of relationship skills. Because when people connect well, they can bridge those kinds of differences. It's not difficult to appreciate different points of view. Okay. Republicans are smart. Democrats are smart. People from the city and the country may have slightly different approaches to life, but they want much the same things. It's not that difficult to bridge these divides. What gets in the way is a lack of connecting skills. We don't really trust deepening our emotional intimacy with other people. So what we're left with is all the superficial BS. Like, what do you believe politically? Well, who the hell cares if we can't get along, right? We're gonna tank our society anyways because we're at each other's throats. So if you want to have a better society, learn how to connect. And the other thing that reminds us of how true this is the microcosm of our own homes. Because if you don't believe this, just look to your own family, look to your own family system in your own microcosm of your life. Okay. When people support each other, when they love each other, when they're there for each other, when they listen to each other, you can bridge differences. Okay. You can be anti-gay and have a gay kid and probably bridge that difference well and show empathy and acceptance if you have those relationship skills to manage how foreign that is to you and how shocking that is to you and how scary it is to you. You'll get it figured out because you know how to share empathy, love, curiosity, connection, right? It's the people without relationship skills that get in trouble, both at home and in the society. So the reason why connection matters so much is it improves your mental health, it improves your physical health, it improves your family life at home, and it improves society in really important ways.
I'm in, you know, me, I'm in 100% agreement with you. And so what would you say is a connecting skill, like a simple one we can teach people that can support them connecting with themselves, connecting at home, connecting in society, et cetera, that they might not know? Oh, it's actually is, maybe it's not easy, but it's certainly as simple as this. What would you say?
So two things there. When people read the book, they're going to come across a little metaphor that I use, which is helpful for this. And that's called landing on the same little patch of grass as somebody else. Okay. Because most of the time what happens is when you're available to connect with me, I suddenly become unavailable. You know why? Because connection and intimacy is awkward and it makes me nervous.
Right, right.
So when you gaze at me with that sweet look of yours, I'm going to get nervous and anxious, and I'm going to like find some random thing to talk about. I'm going to exit the moment and I'm going to start multitasking or distracting, right? And then when I'm ready and I'm available, I might stress you out and make you nervous and make you anxious. And so suddenly you're off on some random thing. And so 80% of the time we're distracted and multitasking.
Okay.
The very small percentage of the time that we might be able to really connect, we're not ready at the same time. And the main reason for that is emotional intimacy is awkward. And none of us are trained in it. So even when the opportunity is there, we go, this is weird. You want to watch Netflix? Which is fine. I like watching Netflix. But the point is, like, when you form a direct connection with somebody, that's when the message goes in that you matter, that somebody really cares about you, right? Yeah. That stays with you. That changes how you feel about yourself.
Yes.
So the first thing I would say is take the opportunity to land on that little patch of grass with someone and wait for them to join you there. Don't be in a hurry. Don't multitask. Don't let yourself get distracted. If that person is distracted, wait around for them, so that you can be emotionally available at the same time.
Go a little deeper there, because my whole life is about intimacy. All day long, I have intimate conversations with clients, private, group, interviews. I'm being interviewed. Like, I love connecting so much. And that's where I feel home and where I belong, that I've designed my entire life to be like this. So I probably make people feel awkward all day long, and but I just love to love people. So I just do it. But for people that are listening or watching and they're like, they might be in the blame mode. Like, my partner, I want to have an intimate conversation or have this really emotionally available connection, and they're saying whatever. And you want me to just stand in the kitchen and wait? What do you mean just wait, standing in the kitchen? Like, what do you really mean by that, without judging them, without getting impatient? Really seeing this as a spiritual practice and an invitation of vulnerability.
There's a whole host of relationship skills that work together.
Yeah.
So going all the way back to John Gottman in the 70s, right? If people are relying on blame and criticism, they are harming their own relationship and possibility at connection.
Yes.
So standing in the kitchen, wondering why your partner is a deadbeat and doesn't understand intimacy is not going to get you any closer to intimacy.
Yes.
So, as a therapist, we think about, okay, what actually works? Because
Yes.
I can relate to that feeling, right? Like sometimes I'm disappointed waiting for my partner to show up.
Yeah.
And, my partner's busy or whatever. I can relate to the feeling, but the real question is what gets us closer to the connection that I'm thirsty for.
Yeah.
So another thing that people will find in the book is what's called inviting care.
Mm.
Inviting care is something we notice advanced couples doing. These are couples called master couples in the research. And these are partners that treat each other really well. They have very connected relationships. So when we observe them, we like to code their behavior and pay attention. What are they doing? One of the things that advanced couples do is they invite care. So if you're standing in the kitchen and you're like, my partner is a deadbeat, they don't understand what intimacy is, where are they? I'm just waiting around. If you allow yourself to go to criticism and blame, well, now you're adding to the problem.
Correct.
Okay. So you don't have an excuse anymore. Now you're participating in the problem. So the thing that works really well is inviting care. What is that? It's being a team. It's talking like a team. It's not scapegoating your partner because they're probably doing the best they can, right? Maybe they didn't grow up with awesome examples of love and intimacy. I mean, who did? Right? Most people are trying to do their best. So you function as a team, and what that does is it makes you stronger. Mm-hmm. When you're in the kitchen waiting for your partner and they're distracted and they're on Facebook and you can't get their attention, instead of getting angry or getting critical, say, hey, sweetheart, I really need you right now. Would you mind putting that down and helping me with something? It's really important.
Can you say that one more time?
Yes. Hey, sweetheart, I really need your help right now. Would you mind putting that down and helping me with something? It's important.
So let's like literally break it down and explain why each of these steps matter, because this is brilliant. So the very first, say the first line again, and can you tell us why that's so important to lead with that, please?
It's very important to lead with team language. Otherwise, anything sounds like criticism.
Right.
And so the key is a we concept here, right? Not like, hey, you over there doing the wrong thing, stop doing the wrong thing and do the right thing. I mean, I'm just shooting myself in the foot if that's my message.
Right. Yes.
What I have to say is, I need you. You're important to me. You're really valuable. I could use you. Would you be willing to come over and help me?
Yeah.
And the reason I can say that is because we have a partnership.
Yes.
So built into the idea of partnership is the idea that you will help me if I need it.
Yeah.
You will have my back if I need it. We exist to support each other. So I don't need to get critical.
Right.
I just need to remind ourselves that this is why we exist. So maybe my need for connection right now trumps Facebook, and we just need a gentle reminder of how true that is.
Stunning. And the courage to ask that you actually need help. You that on your own, you're awesome. And that it's not something shameful or something to be embarrassed by, to be vulnerable and open up and say, I need this inviting care. I need your help. And to address them as lover or sweetheart or some kind term that would make me perk up. Suppose an asshole or something.
Right. So when people read the book, they're going to understand that to invite care, you have to expect care. There's a precursor condition, that not everybody has.
Right.
If we didn't grow up in a family that was supportive, a lot of the times we don't expect care.
Nor do we think we deserve it.
Yeah. Absolutely right. So I'm not even going to think about inviting care because I can't even imagine that ever being helpful.
This is big. Yeah.
So that's a psychology thing is if you're not inviting care, it may be because you don't expect it and you don't feel you deserve it.
So what would you say to those people that are just like going like, oh my God, that's a mic drop. And they're listening to this podcast. They're like, okay, well, now what do I do?
So this is what I love about relationship work, because most people would tell you, get into therapy, work on yourself, tell yourself affirmations, do some journaling, think about your childhood, think about the messages you picked up in childhood. I actually think all of that is really valuable. I've done a lot of that myself. But it's not the same as working this through in a relational setting. Okay. I have to challenge myself to change my relationship skills, not just my own thoughts about myself. Okay. So it's going to be so hard for me the first time I say to my partner, would you help me with something?
Yeah.
Because I have never said that in my life. And if I ever thought about saying that in my family, I would get trampled on.
Right.
Okay. So it's incredibly risky and awkward and weird to start using effective relationship skills.
Yeah.
But magic starts to happen when you do, because just like you said, your partner's ears perk up and they go, wait, hold on a second. I'm not being criticized here. Wait, really? Wait, what are you telling me? You're telling me I'm valuable? You're telling me I can help you? You're telling me I have a positive role that makes us stronger?
Right.
Where did that come from? I've never heard that in my life from you. So all of a sudden the relationship starts changing. There's good feeling that starts to circulate. It validates the approach you're using and like, okay, I'm awkward at this, but it actually works.
Yeah.
So now you double down on it and now it becomes easier.
Right. And then you praise them, you say thank you and appreciate them after they've helped you. And they're like, well, that feels pretty good. Right.
Right.
Yeah. And then they start to do it to you and you really start to surrender and be stronger together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just like you said earlier, Alana, and I think Brene Brown has done great work on this as well. Vulnerability is a sign of strength.
Yes.
I'm sure people have heard that a million times, but it's worth reiterating.
Yes.
Because if we don't have that as a default habit, there's a part of us that doesn't quite believe it yet. You know, what are you talking about? Vulnerability is a sign of strength. Well, what I'm talking about as a therapist is people who can't ask for support are weaker individuals psychologically.
That's important. Say that one again, please, sir.
People who cannot ask for support are weaker individuals psychologically.
Because they don't, I'll let you finish that sentence.
Because they don't have the strength of self to be honest about an emotional reality.
Yeah, or that they deserve it, or that they're worthy of it.
Yeah, they have to protect some sense of ego that's fragile and it's being held up by scaffolding. And therefore asking for support is too iffy because maybe this whole thing's going to crash.
Right.
If I don't get it, or if I don't get it the right way or whatever. You have to have a pretty strong sense of self to stand in your emotional truth and say, I need love. I need attention. I need you to remind me how awesome I am. I need you to tell me how beautiful I am. I need your time. I need your help. What does it cost me? It doesn't cost me anything. It's just an honest representation of how I feel.
Correct. And there's no apology and there's no shame. And if they do it, great. If they don't do it, great. Like there's no attachment there, but clearly you're going to hang out with people that want to honor, love, support, and respect you. And if they quote unquote reject you when you ask, it's not a rejection of you because you're the brave one that asked for it in the first place. It's their inability to provide that. What would you say to the couples that begin to ask for this and they do get rejected? Because we talked about the positive flow, like there's more love, there's more support, there's more appreciation, but they could be met initially by skepticism. Well, you've never done this before. What do you want? You manipulative, call it like, why are you doing nice? What do you want?
They will be rejected at first is what I would say. Okay. Most of the time, your partner's not catching on to this. The first few times you pull a move like that. And that's because, family therapists talk about something called homeostasis, which means your relationship culture has default habits.
Right.
All right. It's stuff that's ingrained in how you roll with each other. So when somebody pulls out a new move, it's not like the partner is immediately on board and goes, oh, I know what to do with that. Now I'm going to pull out my new move and then we're just going to hit that next gear together. It doesn't work like that. You have to persist until your partner has a chance to catch on to what you're doing, and then you can get healthier together.
Nice.
But if you're not used to this kind of healthy communication and you blame, you yell at each other, you judge each other, you criticize each other, and you think you're hoping you're going to get something back from that. Well, the first time you actually use a healthy move and you say, sweetheart, I have a lot of respect for you. I'm so glad you're my partner. I could use your help. I'm having a bad day. I've got a lot of feelings. I don't feel that great about myself. Something happened earlier. Would you sit with me and just listen to me? Remind me that I'm great. Can we just sit? Would you hold me? So the first time I use that, or the first 3 or 5 times I use that, my partner might not do anything useful whatsoever, right? They might do what they usually do, which is, yeah, whatever. Talk to your therapist about it. Can we talk about it later? I'm busy. The usual stuff that usually feels disconnecting. Okay, we can expect that. It's a new move. It's not going to be groundbreaking immediately. The game changer is when you know this is healthier and you keep doing it and you double down on it. Because the 3rd or 4th time you kind of come out with that, now your partner is going to start realizing something's different.
Yeah.
My partner's asking for help. They're not coming after me. So what kind of a deadbeat am I that I keep saying no, when they ask so nicely?
Wow.
Maybe I need to step up now. Yeah. And partners adapt themselves to this new culture, and now you're off to the races.
Stunning. And so in that double down phase, because it takes a lot of bravery and strength to be vulnerable and to ask, and then you got rejected, and you put down the kitchen knife and you go for a walk, right? And you try it again, and they did it again. Oh my God. And now you want to call a divorce lawyer, but you don't. What do you say the partner that's willing to go first and do this? Yeah, you got to double down, but that's hard. But
it's also very
grow, right?
Yes, I completely agree with you. It is how we grow, and it's painful.
Yeah.
But relationship is painful. A relationship has ups and downs. Yeah. It has failures and it has triumphs. Yeah. It's like a concentrated, version of life.
Yeah.
It's the same thing on steroids. You're going to feel everything more intimately and personally, but you don't get to avoid failure. So you have to be prepared for that. Okay, we're partnered. We're going to be brilliant sometimes and we're going to suck sometimes. Okay, we already know that. Yeah. So can we at least take a team approach to it and not be at each other's throats, right? When we suck, let's just admit it to ourselves and work together to get better. No, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, this is also, I think, really important to talk about, John, because the society says, well, then the white knight arrives on his horse, and then you live happily ever after, and you never fight, and relationships have no pain. And if they do, trade them in, swipe right, and whatever, and get a new one. So this idea that prepare that you will fail, prepare that there will be pain, prepare that you will suck, but you're on the same team, and you're going to get through this. To me, that point of view, how many couples come into your office with that point of view, already prepared that this is going to be hard sometimes, but it's worth it? To me, when
not that many, because you're right. People buy the fantasy that my new relationship is somehow magically going to make everything better. Yeah. Relationships do not avoid the laws of life. You're going to get your hopes up and they're going to be dashed. Yeah. You're going to think it's going to go this way and it's going to go that way. Yeah. No one's perfect. Nothing's perfect. So, but if you have a strong relationship, life is better together because you can support each other, but you are going to have failures.
Yeah.
And so I think of vulnerability as a test of a relationship. Your partner may not come around immediately because they may have no idea what to do with that. Right. But eventually it's going to put them in a box where they have to do something different. I mean, nobody can listen to that, would you love me, 5-6 times and not figure out some response to that. So what it does is it tests the relationship. If someone repeatedly turns you down, it may not be a relationship worth keeping because it may not be healthy enough. Yeah. But give your partner a chance to adapt, right? And hopefully at some point your partner shows up and says, of course I'll help you. I just don't know how, because, I don't know anything about emotions or support or what you're needing, or I'm very lost and confused, but what I do know is I care about you and I'm here for you. Right. But people don't need to know what to do. They just need to telegraph that they care. Yes. That's usually enough. And most people are not going to avoid that for very long. You have to be pretty antagonistic to turn down vulnerability over and over and over and over again. That's a sign that the relationship may not be worth keeping.
Correct. Yeah, that's good to say, because how long do you stay asking and being connected? And yes, you're going to get stronger in your vulnerability, but at some point, if they won't grow with you,
exactly,
then thank you. I bless you. I release you. Yeah. I'm so glad to reconnect with you. I want everyone to grab your book, getmorethanwords.com, so you can get all the goodies as well. I'd love to complete with a really beautiful, maybe it's a story personally in your relationship, maybe it's a story of clients who really started to, first, back to the beginning of this interview, asking more meaningful questions to themselves. What's really important? What am I really about? Practicing being fully present with ourselves so that we can then be fully present with others. And then really, I love how you were saying thirsty for connection. Well, what is that really going to take? Some of these skills. And they start to apply these skills, and then life really takes a positive turn. I'd like a real concrete, like little story, so we can, I don't know, feel good and go, yeah, I can do it too. Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you a story from my personal life, because if people have heard me before or read my stuff, they know I used to be awful at relationships. There's different attachment styles, as you know. Okay, I was very avoidant, which meant that I didn't connect well. I was very independent. I was very aloof. I didn't think I needed people. You know, it was hard to get information out of me. I could be cold sometimes. All right. So when I started wanting to have really quality, meaningful relationships, I had some very bad habits. And I started studying the science of connection because I really did want to learn. These things are not easy to implement, but you can. You just have to be willing to be silly and do stuff that's not natural for you. You know, so at one point when I was reading the science of connection, I came across something that made sense to me. And I realized immediately I had not been doing that at all. And that is prioritizing the process of interaction over the content. Okay, so in the modern world, we live in a content-based society. We're taught from a young age, you know, your thoughts and your logical mind is what makes you you, and it's what makes you smart. And you have to communicate with people with ideas and concepts, and you have to talk them into your logic so that you can agree on stuff. Well, all of that is frontal lobe activity, okay, which is actually not the part of the brain that connects. It's not the part of the brain that feels, okay, we're safe, we're friendly, I love you, you have my back, I have yours. That happens in different parts of the brain, but not the logical thinking part of the brain.
Thank you.
So process over content means I'm going to focus more on how it feels to hang out with you than on exactly what we're talking about. So instead of getting into stupid arguments that mean nothing, I'm going to notice that we're getting stressed and frustrated. And I'm going to pause right there. And I'm going to say, you know, I think I'm getting a little frustrated in this conversation. You know, maybe we're both getting a little bit stressed out. What can we do to relax together? What can we do to reset? What do we need to connect? Should we just hold each other and stop talking for 5 minutes? Should we take a walk and get our bodies moving? You know, maybe we forgot to eat lunch and we actually need to eat and come back to this, you know, when we're not tired and hungry. So I call that a pause and pivot.
Nice.
But when I started practicing this in my own relationship, it was a total game changer. Because what I realized about myself is I was not process oriented at all. I was just trying to get points across and then debating ideas and then deciding who's right and who's wrong and then coming up with ways that we're going to do this relationship thing. But I wasn't really in the moment available for connection.
Right.
Too idea based, which avoidants have that tendency, and I did as well. So when I learned this, I was like, okay, I'm going to just focus on the process. I'm going to be in the present moment. Whenever I notice this thing going off, I'm going to pause right there. I'm not going to keep going down the wrong road. I'm going to stop. And I'm going to do something caring and connecting. Right? Why are we getting stressed? Why is this conversation difficult? What can I do for you? Maybe we should rub each other's feet. Maybe we should rub each other's shoulders, right? Let's get back on track, because feeling connected is so much more important than what we're talking about.
Yeah. Whoa. And this is so good. And when you, would you say the capacity to actually pause and stop and get out of your head and into the body and into the emotions and the feeling, and then being able from that place to communicate so brilliantly about how can you connect again and care? Was that because all that back to the beginning of the interview, like the talking with the different Indigenous tribes and really coming back to what really matters inside of you, your own internal connection to you? When you felt stressed, did you learn to talk to yourself this way? Was it your own inner work that allowed the outer? Or was it kind of like simultaneously in both directions, outer and inner? How did this capacity?
Yeah, I think, well, initially, because I had very poor relationship skills, I was just trying to heal myself.
Right.
You know, I think a lot of people can relate to that. They're like, relationships are complicated. I don't want to introduce another person into this thing right now. I need to get myself straightened out.
Yeah.
And I think I was very much in that camp for a while because I had a lot to straighten out. But I will say, as I started learning the science of relationships, one of the things that blew my mind is the brain is limited in how much it can correct itself. You know, like we are, all of us, a kind of internal feedback loop. Other people bring another nervous system, another brain, another perspective. Other people can get through to us in ways we can't get through to ourselves. Sure. So one of the most powerful individual healing methods is a healthy relationship. When someone looks at you and tells you how amazing you are, you start to think differently about yourself. You're like, okay, I've been telling myself that for a few years, but I sort of don't believe it. But now there's somebody else that sees that. That's really powerful. So a lot of times it is both. Once you get functional enough to have healthy relationships that aren't toxic, those healthy relationships continue to accelerate your individual healing process.
This is so good. I'm reminded of a retreat I led, and we called it Fly on the Wall. And I was taught this by my mentors. And we imagine that one person's not in the room, and we just start to praise them and appreciate them. Don't you just love it when they do this? And by the time we did the first round, because there was maybe like 5 or 6 of us at the intimacy retreat, they were a mess. They were just crying, and they're like, I need to put my phone on. Could you say it again? I need to listen to this every day. And I was like, oh God, this is way bigger than I thought it was. Way bigger than I thought it was. And so, and that's one of the biggest compliments I ever get is when clients will say, well, I was hearing you in my head and you were telling me I got this. And I was like, oh, I live inside your head. This is amazing.
I know. That's the beauty of attachment, is we can do that for each other.
We can. We really, really can. Yeah. I love this conversation. I'm so grateful you exist. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for reflecting back why I'm on the planet. And so I would like everybody to go to getmorethanwords.com so that you can get this book. I think it would be amazing probably to read with your partner. That would be a really great thing, or a book club with your family or friends or kids, or certainly. So there's that. And I look forward to more conversations on your podcast as well, because it's just really refreshing. All that you're doing, all that you get, where you've come from, and all that you're impacting humanity with. I'm really inspired, John, really inspired.
Thank you so much. You're so sweet for saying that. I feel the same way about you. I think we're very like-minded on these things, which is, why we enjoy talking. For everyone listening, I know not everyone is reading books these days. It's like we're a soundbite culture. We do, YouTube and podcasts and stuff. But a book is a very unique learning format. I just want to say, I didn't really appreciate this until I wrote one. It's a unique learning format because the author can really distill concepts with a lot of detail and clarity, in a progressive form that you just can't do in a quick video or a quick podcast. And so what I think people are going to get from this book is understanding how connection is different than communication. And we're all trying to communicate to connect. But that's not the proper sequence. The sequence is connect to communicate. And once you understand the difference, your communication problems go away. You feel more loved and appreciated in your relationship, because most people are pushing the boulder uphill and they're like, I don't know why we keep getting crossways in our communication. Well, it's not what you're saying so much as the fact that you're not connected first. So the mind isn't open, the body isn't open, everything's getting misinterpreted. So I teach people how to connect to communicate. I think that's really the powerful idea in the book. And I agree with you. I think if people get the hardcover so you can mark it up and read it together and highlight sections and talk about it, it's a great way to organize a conversation about improving your relationship.
I love that idea. Yeah, I think it's great. And I know that this probably won't come out for Valentine's Day, but I'll make sure it's in our newsletter or our social media so that they can get that And I love what you said earlier as well. Relationship is a meditation. When we think about meditation, it's a connection to the moment. It's a connection to self. It's a connection to feelings and body and bravery with an open heart. And then open your trap and talk. Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you speak from that place, what you're saying is consistent with the nonverbal signals you're already sending.
Yes.
And the whole package makes sense. And the nervous system can relax because it's trusting what's coming its way. Most of us make the mistake of trying to use words and concepts to communicate stuff. And we have no idea what our nonverbals are doing.
Right.
Most of the time, they're communicating the opposite of what we're saying.
Right.
And we're like, why isn't my partner getting the message? I've told them this 100 million times. Well, it's because your eyes and your face and your body language are saying something else.
Totally. And the energy of starting there, you're going for the win. You're going for superiority or like being right? That's a different energy. I often, I love my poor clients, and we have so much fun in our group calls and on our retreats, but I'm like, okay, say that same thing from your heart, the little valves on your heart. And then I go, say the same thing from your pussy lips. Let's see what happens. But it changes.
That's probably a new concept for them.
What it is, and we have a good little giggle, but it's like, where are you sourcing the communication, right? Which is what you're talking about. Are you connected with yourself so that same connection can then be connecting with them and then talk? It's night and day. It's night and day. So we have different ways of getting there, but we're going for the same concept. Yeah, I love it. Good. All right. So everybody, get more than words. Get your copy. Write it up. And write all over it and share it with your partner, share it with your family, share it with your kids. And this has been jam-packed with gems. My request is that when you finish this, take a beat, go for a walk, get your journal out. There's something that's spoken to you the most. Reflect on that and then take an action on that, because this conversation could literally change the trajectory of your life. And it's about really receiving what spoke to you. Let it shift you, and then you are different, better, a more evolved version of who you are. Definitely get the book, of course, as well. But just know that this conversation is ready to change the trajectory of your relationship capacity. So let it, and let me inspire you by asking you to take an action, so that it does change for the good. All right. Thank you. I'll say my official goodbyes to you in a second here, but thank you so much for being with us on Intimate Conversations. We love you.
That's so sweet. Thank you, Alana. It's always an honor and a pleasure. And I really love how you just said that at the end, of how people can reflect on the life-changing elements of this information. That was really cool. And so when you come on my show, we have to talk more about that.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much, John.
Okay. Bye.